Hello, and welcome to another Stone Tech Sunday, Syntrx review and thoughts. For today's contemplative show, I recommend a 1 gram spliff, your choice of fillings. Excellent. First, I'd like to say that this is not a clone. It is a work-alike of the VCS3. I'd also like to say that it's quite literally my favorite new synthesizer. This touches all the right places and meets all the requirements to be not a clone, but a better VCS3. I don't need a VCS3 anymore. I have no desire for an original unit. That I have owned 3 original either AKSs or Putneys of both the earlier and later vintage, and they all were wonderfully flawed, usually in some fundamental way. They made interesting sounds and music, and if you were inspired and the right thing happened and the machine was rolling, you could get something that would be useful to you. Random is good, but on the other hand, being able to play over an octave is good too, and that was something that wasn't really easy to do, especially the units that I had in the condition they were in. Those original machines have lost their luster. That said, the original machines can be upgraded in the ways that, like this one here is, by buffering the patch matrix. This is fully buffered and has other advantages such as not having pins and repeatable. Repeatable. Even at their best, the old units were crackly, unstable beast. Fun, but ultimately not worth my trouble. I like things that work, that don't send me down the tech side of my head when playing. Repeatable. Now, I've always loved the sound. In the quest for that sound, I built Jürgen Heibel's Living VCOs. His trapezoid generator, I built 4 of those with the VCAs, and 2 of the U-Synth VCS3 clones with the 24 and 48 dB response switch and the slew rate capacitor, either enabled or disabled. There's a switch you can put in to do that. Repeatable. I built these devices because I wanted that sound, knowing that I would never really get the workflow, but I would get the sound. I could get the drones. I could get the lead sounds. I could even do on the run if I wanted to. Minus the ring mod trick, but I could, because I didn't build a ring mod. I have another ring mod I could have used. But I had the sound I wanted, those drones, which is probably what I wanted mostly out of my VCS3 at the time. That said, it never satisfied the workflow requirement. This does. I'm not going to really talk about things that other people have already talked about before. I'm going to note a couple of issues I had with the unit. The trapezoid generator has a heat-related issue. I noticed it because I'm in a non-climate controlled bedroom, effectively. After COVID, moved out of the studio, moved a lot of the gear back home, and I've been using this unit here, and it's not I don't have AC or anything like that here. It's Portland, Oregon. It's not supposed to get hot. I was surprised but not surprised because I had the same difficulty getting the pinch-off point set correctly on the ones that I built. The unit would continue to self-cycle even when it was in the manual position. While this was a problem, it was a known problem to Erica Synths. When I inquired with them, they told me the pot to adjust, and I did. And after a few attempts, I actually found a position that works for me. One of the things that it's missing is I wish that I had a long or times 10 for the trapezoid generator. All of my trapezoid generators are built with that functionality in mind, and many of the VCS3s that I see today that are functioning have that modification done to them. I wish they had included that. I'm certain they were trying to meet a certain price point, so they couldn't put everything in that I would want, of course, and meet that price point. Well, back over to the filter. The 24 18 dB per octave filter, there seems to be some confusion in the community about, you know, what kind of filter is actually in here. Well, Graham Hinton kind of clearly states that the filter was always 24 dB per octave, and adding that switch basically just extends the range of the frequency cutoff knob. I guess that makes sense, but that's what I read on the interwebs. The interwebs are always right. The VCOs, they're stable and just the right amount of unstable. When I compare them to the living VCOs, they are unstable in the right way. The living VCOs are very stable, or can be very stable, and you can throw in the amount of drift you want. These are just always drifty. That's the way you have to kind of look at it. These will work. They stay in tune. When they do go out of tune, they go out of tune in a very predictable way. So it's really easy to just, you know, knock the knob a little bit and it just pops right back into attention. And they sound good. They roll. They track reasonably well. I am a little bit concerned, you know, when I say they track reasonably well, I actually think in my unit they track better when I feed them from the MIDI to CV converter. Repeatability. The cons, if I have a con, would be the reverb. The reverb is smaller tank than on the original, so the sound is different. The case is a resonant box, and it's prone to feedback. A loud stage volume will couple right back into the case, which you may or may not want for an effect, but I mostly don't want that. One of the things I wish they would do or had done was provided the matrix I/O for the reverb on the back on some jacks, so you could patch in an external effects device, use that in a high volume stage volume situation. And for repeatability, things that are missing. Well, they've gone through all this trouble to install a meter. Why, hello, the missing. They went through all this trouble of installing a meter, this switch, and the cross points on the matrix, but didn't put an output for it on the back. Well, I can see why they probably didn't want to or didn't have to. They probably needed to cost reduce somewhat. But unfortunately, it's one of those things that if this is to be a true work-alike, I need that output. I need that output. So I put one in. And I found a place where I AC coupled the audio off onto a little buffering board, and I send the audio out the back to a small jack. Effectively, I saw a way of getting audio signals out so I could not have to surrender the use of my stereo outputs. Instead, I could send, I had a mono send to an external effects device, and I could bring that back into one of the inputs like I've done here. Let's turn on this. And in this case, I'm using this
I
Moog.
didn't get that. Could you try again? I'm not sure I understand.
This 24 dB per octave Moog filter in a pedal. Now, why that's interesting is I'm going out through the metered output. See, the two oscillators are being sent out there, sent to the filter, and then brought back in on input 1, and that level is set here. And there's, now I've got two filters in action now. Now, hear that buzz? Watch this. It just went away. It's picking up the LED matrix, the sound of it being switched on and off rapidly, most likely. I also added an external sample clock input to the sample and hold here. While this was really a nice addition, and very much like the additions that people make to their original or EMS style units, they don't typically externally clock them either, but I want that. And what I mean by externally clocked, I want to be able to have the opportunity to either trigger the sample and hold at the same time. An LFO might be being used here on oscillator 3 or from the output of a trapezoid. So I installed a switch here where I can either use the internal LFO for sample and hold, or a square wave output of oscillator 3, or I can flip it to external and use the output of the trapezoid generator. And then if you insert a jack, you can trigger it from something else from the outside world. Anyway, that's also buffered. So an input that I built up a little board, and it's just buffered, so I don't have to worry about, well, you know, buffering. That's my 6, 7, 8 minute spiel about the Syntrx. It's one of my favorite devices ever. It emulates the workflow of the classic instruments that I have no desire to ever own again. It has few deficiencies. It certainly is a finely built product, and it's hackable. Look at the matrix. It's hackable. It's an amazing device. Good job, Erica Synths. This is a better VCS3.